Hello everyone, welcome to this CMPT433 demo on how to put your board together from your package. So when you buy your package, it'll probably come in two boxes like this. The one actual box is the BeagleY-AI, and it has in it our board. Let me open that up and show you. This is the unboxing and reboxing video. If I can get into it. Don't worry about the box. You don't actually need the box later. Gives you a little cute little card saying what to do next. And inside is the actual board. So let me take it out. First off, when you're going to touch this, you want to ground yourself probably. So if you're sitting by a desktop computer, you want to touch like a USB port is a great thing to be grounded to. A light socket is often a good thing too. Like a light, not a socket, but like a switch, like the screws on the front of a light switch. And then when I open that up, it has these anti-static bag. You could keep that if you like. You don't need that for this course. We have a bigger one that comes with the other stuff. It's got the gel pack. You can throw that out, and you've got just your board. Now this board on its own, we wouldn't want to just run around with. We're going to connect it up to some extra pieces of hardware to make sure it all works nicely. So inside our kit, let me show you what's inside the kit here. Inside the kit is a little bag of electronic components. I'll show that up a bit closer. And in it, one thing we care about right now is it's got a lot of screws and standoffs in it. They're all the mounting hardware that we're going to use to put our board together. I'll just show you a few of those things as we go through. I'll get that out here in front of me. And it's also got some rubber feet that we're going to put on the bottom of our mounting plate. Going through the rest of the case here, I've got an anti-static bag. Inside of it is going to have the Zen Hat. Now my Zen Hat here is one of the prototypes, so it's black, but yours is going to be green and exactly the same. So we'll come back to that in just a minute. We're going to mount it all together. I've also got in this a smaller anti-static bag with a small LCD in it. Let me open that up and show you. So that's what it's going to look like. It's a small, I think, 1.5-inch LCD that'll mount on top of our Zen Hat. And then the other things in the box bag, I've got a breadboard, a pluggable breadboard that will mount onto the plate. And then in here, I've also got 3 other things. I've got a small USB A to C cable that'll plug the board into your computer. If you don't have a USB A port on your computer, you can use a USB C to C cable that you might already have to plug in your Android phone or something like that. Also, you'll have 2 of these. You should have 2 of these in your package. One of them is going to be pins on one end and sockets on the other. That's so-called male-female cable. And the other one is going to be pins on both ends. If you don't have one of those, come talk to me. We had a spare one, so forgot to put it in one, or put the wrong one in, I think. And then finally, there's a little knob as well. Let me show you that knob, and it'll go on top of the board at the end. So what we want to do now is we're going to put this whole thing together, and I'm going to show you the sequence of steps to assemble it, because it's a bit of a production to get everything together. So the only thing you're going to need is a star or a Phillips screwdriver, a fairly small one. And then we're going to start to, sorry, there's one more thing that I forgot to mention, is that you should also have a mounting plate. And do I have one here just sitting around? I've got it somewhere else. So mine is going to be, I'm going to do this on a board. Yours is going to be clear acrylic, because I don't happen to have that spare one sitting right here in front of me. So it's going to be clear acrylic that we'll use instead, but that's fine. This is good too. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mount the LCD onto the Beagle, the cape. Now it's designed to nicely kind of fit together and be sandwiched in there. So the first thing you're actually going to have to do is unscrew the 4 screws that come on the LCD to start with. So I'm going to use my Phillips screwdriver, and I'm going to unscrew those. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of snug, so make sure you push hard into the screw so you don't strip the screw as you do this. Do not put pressure on the LCD as you're doing this, because that's more delicate than other parts of the board. The actual board itself, the circuit board that it's printed on, the printed circuit board, is going to be pretty strong, but the actual LCD is maybe a bit more fragile. So you're going to unscrew those parts. You're not going to need those screws or those little standoffs. So I just set those aside. Keep them just in case you can turn out to need them later. But we should provide all the needed hardware in the kit. It's a little bit fiddly, so make sure you've got a little bit of room to do this in front of you. So I'm just trying to get all these screws out. And I'm going to use a screwdriver on that. It's a snug fit. I will have some screwdrivers at SFU in the lab when I'm selling the hardware, so that if you want to right then and there assemble your board, you can. But if you do have some screwdrivers at home, I kind of recommend doing that at home. You'll have a bit more time, a bit more space, and uninterrupted access to your own set of screws. Okay, so I've got the screws off of this now in the four corners, nothing in there. The way this is going to fit is there's the connector on the LCD, and it's actually going to fit into the hole on the Zen Hat. And on the other end, we've got these pins. Those are actually spring-loaded pins right beside all these other ones. There's some spring-loaded pins there. And we're going to want to make sure we get those nicely together. So I'm going to just show you what it looks like once it's in a little bit. And that's probably the most fiddly part, is trying to get those lined up just right. So it's going to look kind of like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to screw these things together. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take all of the nylon, that's the white screws and the white nuts. You should have 4 nylon screws and 8 nylon nuts. So that's what it's going to look like, a little nylon white screw. And in the Zen Hat, what we're going to do is we're going to put the nylon screws up from the bottom in the middle 4 holes, like there. So there's 4 holes right beside this big slot, and then right beside these spring headers. On mine, I'm just going to do the 2 right beside the spring pins, because I've got a prototype board and the connectors are slightly offset. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put them up from the bottom. And hold this there for a moment. And then I'm going to screw on the nylon nut on top of that, screwing it all the way down, and just finger tight snug. It doesn't have to hold a lot of pressure there. So just finger tight is good. So there we have it. I'll finish it up with a little bit tighter there. So now I've got it on there. You can see just beside those spring pins here, right beside the connectors actually are labeled, it looks like it says FB5. It's not actually FB5, that's the thing beside it. But it's all those little tiny spring pins right there. And then I'm also going to do it beside these holes. On mine, again, I'm not going to do that just for this little demo, but on yours you should. So now I'm going to connect my LCD to it. So the LCD fits on with the little connector going through the hole in the Zen Hat, perfectly fitting. And then the screws will fit just nicely on through the LCD. And then when I get it on there, I want to make sure I kind of wiggle it just a little gently, and then push it onto those spring pins. So it's going to kind of look like that, if I can show it here. So I'm holding it like that. Again, yours will have screws on both ends, so it'll be nice and flat. But I'm kind of holding it on there. Now I'm going to take another set of the nylon nuts, the white ones, and I'm going to screw it on the very top. So again, I'm going to hold the LCD down to the Zen Hat. One side with finger tight. Again, get another nylon nut. Okay, so I'll show you what that looks like. I got the nuts on the top, and so it's a stack. The screw comes through from the bottom, and then I've got a nut in between the 2 boards, and then I've got another nut on the top. And I've done that for all, do that for all 4 corners. At least you should. Okay, so that holds the LCD on, and that's all we're going to do with the nylon hardware. Now we're switching over to the metal hardware. So there's 2 different types of standoffs you should find in the board. There's one type of standoff that has on it, we got the threaded on, no threaded. So this is just, I got as close as I can there. there's no threads on one side, and then on the other one, you see that there's a kind of a screw at the end. And so those will be able to screw together. What we're going to do is we're going to take all the ones that have, let's start with the no threaded ones. So just the socket on either end that'll screw into it. So there's what the part looks like, holes on each end. And we're going to take some of our black screws. You should have 8 black screws. And we're going to start by going from the top of the Zen Hat, go from the top of the Zen Hat, and you've got 4 holes, 1 in each corner, and I'm going to put the screw in through that corner spot there, and then on the bottom, I can just use a finger and put my finger on top of the nut, or on top of the screw, pardon me, taking the standoff and then screwing the standoff in. And again, I want it finger tight. Don't over tighten it. This isn't meant to be bulletproof, but just kind of a good, reasonably snug. Like that. And so now I've got the standoff on one side. And I'm going to do that for all 4 corners. So find all of your screws. The easiest way is to put the screw through first. Just put your finger on the top and then screw it in using finger tight, screwing the standoff towards into the screw. And for this, you shouldn't use any of the screwdrivers really for almost all of this. We will need the screwdriver at the very last step. So make sure you're getting all the same standoffs with the holes at each end rather than the threaded part at each end. On my last one here, screw from the top in, and my last standoff. These standoffs are exactly the right height to give us the right distance between the boards, so the connector still makes good contact. There we have it. So from the top, I've got the 4 black screws. Again, your board's going to be green. You'll be able to see the screws a bit better. And then from the bottom, I've got the 4 standoffs, 1 in each corner. Now, I'm going to seat this onto my BeagleY-AI. You want to be kind of careful doing this. The BeagleY-AI has the pins along, the top. It's got the 40-pin header. And you just want to make sure that you're pushing the board, you line it up carefully, and then you push it straight onto it, nice. It takes a bit of firm press, but it's not too bad. So I'm going to do that here. Also note, I've got this wireless out of the way, so I kind of spun the wireless antenna out nice and carefully. That's for the Wi-Fi as well as Bluetooth. So I'm going to line it up here, making sure I got all of the pins together. There. And just the one connector. So I'm going to look at it carefully to make sure I got the pins lined up. And then I'm just going to hold above and below the connector right there, and I'm going to push it together. You do that with the finger hat. And then you hear it kind of click and line up. And when you're together, you should see it. It might have a little tiny bit of space between them, but that's okay. It should be pretty tight. And nicely lined up. All right. Now I'm going to take my other standoffs, the ones with the threaded on the end, and I'm going to thread them into the standoffs that are lining up now. Let me try and do that here. If it starts to turn, you might just want to put your finger on the top to hold it all together. Yeah. Not leading this up high. All 4 threaded standoffs. Careful not to lose these. They're harder to get, and they're actually surprisingly expensive. We looked at a number of options, and this was actually the most convenient to put together. Okay, so now I've got the standoffs coming at the bottom, all 4 sides holding it nicely together. Now what I'm going to do is connect it up to my plate. Now I happen to have already got my, so again, I'm using a board, and I've already got the rubber feet, and so you'll have some rubber feet that look like this. You'll have the rubber feet, and you can put them all they'll all go in the very corners. I recommend doing it afterwards at the very end, just so you know where the screws are going to go. On your board, it'll say here, let me hold it up the right way. You can ignore some of the other things that was just a test cut. It'll say BeagleY-AI, so that's where your board's going to go, and you can see the 4 holes. On the other side, it's a bit hard to see here, but it says breadboard, and that's where we're going to stick on this breadboard after the fact. So the board actually is symmetric. It'll kind of, you can put it either way, but this is designed, the cutout there is designed to make it easy to reach the micro SD card. So what it is, we're going to lay it out like this. That if you've got the space at the top, you're going to have the Zen cape is going to look like that. So on your right-hand side, you'll have the connectors. On the bottom, the thing that's kind of most important, we've got the USB-C connector. And then on the side with a little bit of a cutout is where we're going to put the micro SD card in there. And that means that you can reach in a little bit and grab it nicely. So now the last thing to do is screw this together using the screws. And for this, you're actually going to need that screwdriver. So I'm going to take my black screw that's remaining, and I'm going to put the screw in from the bottom. And maybe I can finger tighten it a little bit. Yeah, it's going to go a little bit. And this will be like that, going in from the bottom. Before you tighten any of the screws, put each of the screws in and get it turning just a little to kind of line it up. And then that way, if you need to move it around just a little bit, it's really easy to do that when things are loose, and not so easy when things are all tightened up tight. Also, same advice for when you're changing a tire on a car. You do the bolts up, not beside each other, kind of go around, do them up a little bit, get them all lined up nice, and then snug it down once it's all together. So here's what I've got. I'm doing the next one. Again, it's still pretty loose. I'll take my last screw, put it in. It should go into the standoff just nicely. If you're using a nice big screwdriver, make sure you're not screwing this too hard. These are fairly small and fine screws, so it should go in nice and easy like that. And then I'll just tighten each of them up. And my last one. There we go. So that is, the board's now attached. I got the space on the top, so I'm going to open up my, there's a little nick in the edge of the plastic. I can rip that off. I can throw out the bag, and then the desiccant goes in there. It comes with this metal plate there. We don't need that either. That can be thrown out. All we need is the small little breadboard. On the bottom, it's got a sticker. So we can take that off, adhesive. I'll take off the cover for that. And then I got my board. It's going to matter which way it's going to go. You'll notice that there's a plus and a minus on it. Plus is the high voltage. I'm going to probably put it so that the red plus is up relative to my board. Doesn't matter if you get it the other way. It just makes it look better. So I'm going to put it like this, and then I'm going to stick it on here. So let me show you. I'm going to line it up. Doesn't need to line up perfectly, but you know, it depends on how compelled you are to make it look perfect. And it should look really good. I'm going to stick it on, and there we go, all put together. One thing that you might want to do is you could take your antenna, and you can kind of, I'm going to push my antenna around in here just to keep it out of the way so it doesn't get caught on anything. That's good. Now I've got a micro SD card. You're going to need to use your micro SD card that's included. I think it's a 32 gig one. And you're going to want to set that up on a computer. So you need to put it into the computer in a micro SD card reader. Or if you've got an SD card reader, I do have some micro SD to SD card adapters. I also have some USB micro SD card readers that I can lend to people while they're at school to program the chip. So after you've programmed the chip is going to go down here into the bottom. And I think, let me just see if it goes in this way. It'll fit. There we go. So it goes in, and with the colored side, let me go like that. And there we have it. It goes in the very bottom here in the cutout. There's a little reader, and I can push it in, just push it in straight, and it only fits one way. And there we have it. And you'll stick on the feet into the four corners now on the bottom. After you've done that, one more thing to put on is this knob. The knob is going to connect up to our rotary encoder, which is in the bottom right-hand corner. And the rotary encoder has one side that's flat. Your knob has one side that's flat. So I'm going to line up the two flats in there, and I'm going to put it on, lining it up nicely. And then once I get it lined up, it's going to be a reasonable little shove to get it on this. I'm looking to make sure I got lined up right. And then I'm going to push it on, and it should slide in. There is a push on it, so if it clicks, you're good. So you can hear mine clicking. And there we have. The one other thing you might want to do is came with a couple of these button tops that are kind of work well with these other buttons we've got, but it turns out these also fit on our joystick. So I'm going to line it up one way. It's kind of oblong one way. It'll fit on better. I'm going to put it on the top there. And now it's got a nice little top to the joystick. And so it's a little nicer to use and push it around that way. In order to actually run the board, now that's all that we wanted to do. You're going to want to get out your USB-C cable. Whatever's going to connect to your computer is fine. We've got these really nice colorful ones. Came with our kits. And on the side here, let me line that up. On the side here, there is the connectors, and it'll only fit in the one, and that is my USB-C slot. I'll put it in there. That's how it's going to connect to my computer. And so this end I will plug into my computer. And then that's all you need. From here you can look at the quick start guide, and it'll show you what to start doing with the software to get it up and running. If you like, you can pull off the protective screen for your LCD, but we won't get to the LCD for a little bit longer. Just to give you a heads up as to what's coming down later, we do also have this LED strip. And so we're going to plug the LED strip in later. You don't need to worry about it now, but later it'll plug into this nice LED header on the top left-hand corner of the board. And then later we can be driving that directly without having to have any wires connected. You will again have those wires. Later we can connect up some of the components. Some of the components you should have in your little kit is you should have, I think, 3 different LEDs. I think there'll probably be a red, a green, and a white, or red and green and a yellow, which looks white. And you'll have 2 buttons that look like this that we can plug into the breadboard later. And then you'll have 2 little packs of resistors. One might be in a bag, and the other one currently is loose because it was cheaper to buy it that way. But it's all in there. And I think that's it for the components. You can throw out any of the little bags you didn't need. You will have one large anti-static bag. So you want to open that up. I'm going to take off my LCD strip. I'm going to unplug my USB-C. And then I'll tuck it into my bag. Being reasonably careful with it. It's well built, but reasonably careful. I'm going to fold the top over. And then it will fit nicely into my box like this. I'm going to write my name on the box and maybe on the board as well, putting a label on there, and then closing the lid, putting all the other little components back in there if I need them, and I'm good to go. All right, so that's how you assemble your board. Good luck. It's a little fiddly, so make sure you do it with a little bit of patience and in a place where you're not going to lose your screws when they roll on the floor. All right, thanks for watching. See you in lecture.